Yeah, I mean, I think I communicate mostly with probably like NECA and player leadership more than anything, and I try to do the best I can, you know. I always want to be respectful of everybody and treat everybody with kindness. Like, I think that's really important, but at the same time, relationships are really important to me, and I think we can always improve in that area. I think that can improve a lot of things. I think communication can improve overall. Me and Adam have a great relationship. I know he was here tonight supporting us, so that was great to see. And you know, I think we can just probably continue to improve in that area. And like I said, like communication and relationships solve a lot of issues and a lot of problems.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Clark Update. So glad to have you here for another fresh video. Hope you're all doing well and ready for what's coming. Make sure you stick around until the end because this story takes some turns you definitely don't want to miss. Alright, let's dive right into today's major story without any delay.
So Cathy is probably done. She is probably done as commissioner. It says here, Cathy Engelbert helped the WNBA capitalize on growth, but now her relationship with players is holding it back. Obviously they're talking a little bit about all this other stuff. And yeah, so a lot of insiders are saying this is Cathy Engelbert's last year. And it's so funny. People are like, oh yeah, she hasn't made any effort to prioritize a relationship with Caitlin Clark as one of like the negative things. And people are like, oh, they're just going to sign a new...
The second her name echoed through the arena, the boos erupted. Team Spoon had just taken down Team Coop 129-122 in what might be the most electrifying all-star game this league has ever witnessed. The crowd was still buzzing when the PA announcer introduced Cathy Engelbert to present the post-game trophy following Caitlin Clark's scoreboard torching performance. Normally, this is pure ceremony. A quick handshake, a smile, some hardware passed around, applause, and the broadcast moves on. But the instant her name rang out, before the trophy even touched her hands, the entire building turned on her. If you're enjoying what you're seeing, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Shockingly, over 90% of viewers still haven't subscribed. It's completely free, takes just a moment, but it makes a massive difference to us. Already subscribed? Awesome. Thanks so much for the support. Now let's get back to it.
Owners, executive team executives, like people are calling out Cathy Engelbert, man, saying she's just not fit for the job. It is getting crazy for her. Let's listen to what I think her name is Courtney. Let's listen to what Courtney had to say right here.
Engelbert has turned the WNBA into a mechanism for political discourse that goes off the rails instead of it being a sports engine. There is not a worse commissioner in pro sports than Cathy Engelbert. And I could go on for the entirety of this segment, but I'll give you this so we could, yes, I know it can be a little long-winded. The Dan Patrick thing, canceling the interview, saying that her PR arm told her that it wasn't a good idea. Well, you are the commissioner of the league. You can decide to go on and face tough questions. If you want your league to be taken seriously, stand out in front of some of the discourse that's going on around your league. You've allowed Caitlin Clark to become hijacked in narratives that have nothing to do with basketball.
The jeers weren't isolated to one corner of the arena. They were widespread and relentless enough that the broadcasters had to talk over them just to keep the segment moving. This mirrors past all-star events where she's been met with hostility over salary disputes and CBA frustrations. Here's the key point though. This wasn't just one angry section of fans having a bad night. Engelbert has now been booed during All-Star Award presentations 2 years running. When the same thing keeps happening at the league's biggest annual event, it stops being a random incident and starts becoming a very clear statement.
There was actually a report that came out today that says that the 2026 season will be Cathy's last season. Alexa Philippou said conversations with more than 20 stakeholders in and around the WNBA offer a general belief that for as much business growth as Cathy Engelbert has overseen, she's not the right person to navigate the demands of the league, the demands that the league currently faces, and what its stakeholders now need. I do think Cathy thinks, well, she's done her job, she's got us financially set up in the right way. It's the other pieces that we're talking about. Jeff Hunt, who is a specialist in crisis and reputation management, who has previously worked with the MLB, ATP, WTA, the PGA Tour, he said the hole has just gotten so deep. She's in a place now where I don't really know what she does. Others said that she had a failure to develop sufficient relationship equity. Multiple find it curious she hasn't prioritized developing a closer relationship with Caitlin Clark.
What made this sting even worse was the timing. This all went down during a weekend where Engelbert was already fielding questions about whether she'd even be back for the 2027 season. For a commissioner to get booed on stage, cameras rolling, right in the middle of that swirling speculation, that's about as bad an optic as you can get. She still had to stand there, hand over the trophy, and keep smiling while it happened. That image right there, that's what defines this entire narrative.
How she plan to fix the fact that players like Caitlin, Angel, and Paige, who are clearly driving massive revenue for the league, are making so little for their first 4 years. Her response was, Caitlin should be grateful she makes $16 million off the court, because without the platform that the WNBA gives her, she wouldn't make anything. And in that same conversation, she told me, players should be on their knees thanking their lucky stars for the media rights deal that I got them. That's a mentality driving our league from the top. We have the best players in the world. We have the best fans in the world. But right now, we have the worst leadership in the world. If I didn't know exactly what the job entailed, maybe I wouldn't feel this way. But unfortunately for them, I do. We serve a league that has shown they think championship coaches and Hall of Fame players are dispensable, and that's fine, it's professional sports. But I will not stand quietly by and allow different standards to be applied at the league level. Thank you.
So when reporters asked her point blank during All-Star Weekend in Chicago whether she expects to still be in this role come 2027, Engelbert sidestepped. She talked about how lucky she felt to lead the league during this period of explosive growth. She mentioned momentum, milestones, all the standard commissioner speak people use when they're dodging a real answer. But she never once said yes. She never once mentioned returning. Because when commissioners plan to stay, they usually just say so, and everyone in that room, including the reporter holding the recorder, knew exactly what that non-answer actually meant. To understand why the jeers at Barclays weren't just some random outburst, you have to rewind. This story didn't start this month. Last fall, Alyssa Collier lit the fuse when she went on record calling Engelbert's leadership irresponsible and declaring flat out that the WNBA had the worst leadership in the world. That's not the kind of statement you walk back. Once a player with Collier's track record and Collier's influence says something like that on the record, it doesn't just fade into the news cycle. It sticks. It gets replayed. It gets thrown back at Engelbert in every press conference that follows.
Engelbert, this is your final year. Adam Silver getting ready to fire her come year's end. This Alyssa Thomas, Caitlin Clark situation appears to be the straw that broke the camel's back. We are getting leaked information, and it's coincidence, right? Cathy Engelbert not only makes the WNBA look bad by not showing up to the Dan Patrick interview, the WNBA being under the umbrella of the NBA, in turn, you're making the NBA look bad as well. You're making Adam Silver look bad as well. You're making it seem like Adam Silver doesn't know how to pick the correct leadership when it comes to who's leading the WNBA.
Engelbert did push back on some of Collier's claims. She specifically denied a statement Collier made during a discussion about Caitlin Clark's value to the league, calling it inaccurate. But when the accusation is this specific and this publicly damaging, denials only go so far. That's the backdrop against which Caitlin Clark's comments this year landed. She hasn't been screaming at Engelbert on camera. She hasn't trashed her in a press conference like Collier did. That's just not her approach, and it never has been. But she's also stopped pretending everything with league leadership is fine. This year, for the first time in her career, she's said the quiet part just a little bit louder.
That ultimately the issues around Caitlin Clark are not largely about officiating, and that particular incident is not about whether a foul should have been called at the time in the game or whether that was ultimately a flagrant on review. And I've come to know Caitlin really well. She's an incredible player and also an incredible person. And she wants to focus on being the player she can. And she's become a bit of a political football in this country. And I think it's incredibly unfair to her. I don't think that issue is ultimately about officiating. It's sort of, it's become political ping pong with her. And she's a young woman who's trying to improve her game.
Go back to the Alyssa Thomas incident, because it's a perfect window into why trust between Clark and Engelbert has crumbled. During a game, Thomas hit Clark in the throat with her hand, the kind of play that needs no explanation once you see the replay. According to sources who talked to Sports Business Journal, Engelbert wasn't planning to discipline Thomas for it at all until Adam Silver stepped in and made her reverse course. Engelbert eventually handed down a one-game suspension, a flagrant foul penalty, and a fine, but only after Silver applied pressure behind the scenes. The WNBA officially denied the report that Engelbert hadn't planned to act on her own. Believe whichever version you want, but the story was out there. It circulated everywhere. And the idea that a suspension only happened because the NBA commissioner leaned on her is exactly the kind of thing that makes players start asking extremely uncomfortable questions. At the end of the day, who's actually protecting their most marketable star? And if the WNBA's commissioner isn't the answer, that's a problem that doesn't just disappear with a strong ratings report.
To Tom Friend of the Sports Business Journal, Cathy Engelbert reportedly thought a suspension was too steep because a foul wasn't called live. But reportedly, Adam Silver saw clear evidence of a flagrant foul and urged Cathy Engelbert to act immediately. Now, the WNBA denies this account, but here's the part where the history matters in all of this. During Game 4 of the 2016 Finals, Draymond and LeBron James got tangled up on the floor. No flagrant foul was called live, but Adam Silver and the NBA reviewed it afterwards, assessing Draymond Green a flagrant foul 1, his 4th point, suspending him for Game 5 of the Finals. Now look at Alyssa Thomas. No call was called live. No flagrant foul was called live. But then after the game, elevated to a flagrant foul penalty to a suspension as well as a $1,000 fine. Different league, different player, but striking similar process. But here's where things get even more interesting. According to this report, those closest to Cathy Engelbert believed that she was in an unenviable situation where she didn't want to show favoritism to Caitlin Clark and also didn't want to overlook the fact that players felt overshadowed by Caitlin Clark, which is where reportedly her hesitation came from. But Adam Silver reportedly also...
Silver didn't stay quiet about any of this afterward either. When specifically asked about the Thomas case, he said that Clark had become kind of a political football in this country, and described the treatment she'd received as pretty harsh. He carefully added that he didn't think it was fair to either Clark or Engelbert to turn one egregious incident into a bigger conspiracy. But when the head of a completely different league starts openly defending your player in your league, on a matter that isn't even his to address, you know how much he genuinely cares about getting this right. He didn't have to say anything, he chose to. And this isn't new behavior for him either. It's worth noting that this has been building for a while. Even when he didn't say her name out loud, it felt like a direct comment on Engelbert's leadership. Reports at the time suggested that Silver was quietly trying to smooth things over with Engelbert behind closed doors, while still applying public pressure when needed. There's a pattern here. Public restraint, private pressure, and occasional public remarks when the situation gets bad enough that staying silent isn't an option.
Treat everybody with kindness. I think that's really important, but at the same time, relationships are really important to me, and I think we can always improve in that area. I think that can improve a lot of things. I think communication can improve overall. Me and Adam have a great relationship. I know he was here tonight supporting us, so that was great to see. And I think we can just probably continue to improve in that area. And like I said, communication and relationships solve a lot of issues and a lot of problems.
Then there are moments like when he showed up on an Indiana Pacers broadcast and talked at length about Caitlin Clark's popularity and the fever sweeping the globe. He cited ticket sales, jersey numbers, international buzz, without naming any other WNBA player. That's the kind of clip that gets chopped up and shared 100 times across social media because it says a lot without technically saying anything. Silver is completely aware of what Clark means to basketball as a business right now, in both leagues, and he's never tried to minimize or hide that reality for anyone else's comfort.
At the same time, the WNBA has so much to be proud of, and I feel like, we're always so focused on the negative when we can be focused on the positive. And WNBA leadership has created a lot of positives for this league too, and that should be celebrated. And Cathy has also brought a lot to this league and helped us reach new milestones. But there's always room for improvement in everywhere of a business. And I think we can, just go back and reflect and find ways to get better and, yeah, but overall, I think relationships and communication.
This is where the story for this month moves beyond just background noise. Team Spoon beat Paige Beckers and Team Coop 129-122 in the 2026 All-Star Game, already considered one of the most entertaining games in league history. During the post-game press conference, Clark was asked if her relationship with league leadership had gotten better since the new CBA went into effect. She went on from there, saying that relationships and communication can solve a lot of problems, and that there's still room for growth in many areas. In her own words, Clark was standing in the same building where reporters, fans, and reportedly team executives had questioned Engelbert's leadership all weekend long, while openly praising Silver.
It probably will be Cathy's last season, and we've talked about this in previous episodes, and we also talked about this during the whole CBA thing. It was a disaster. And Cathy has done a lot of incredible things for the WNBA, and a lot of things that I personally have heard that have gone on behind the scenes that we actually don't see publicly. She's done a lot to make sure that this league stays afloat. But again, it seems like it's more from the business side and not so much the relationships that she builds with players. And there have constantly been more and more players coming out and saying that they don't have a relationship with her. She's not doing great and things need to be better. And I do think that there has been just so many fires across the WNBA that haven't been put out quickly enough. The PR hasn't been great. The marketing hasn't been great.
And notice what Clark chose not to do in that moment, because it says just as much as what she did say. She didn't trash Engelbert publicly. She actually gave Engelbert some credit too, saying the league has plenty to be proud of, and that Cathy has done important work and helped us reach new heights. But there's always room for improvement. That's a carefully crafted response. And anyone who's watched Clark handle the media over the past few years knows she doesn't say things by accident. It's clearly not a full endorsement, but it's also not a total condemnation of Engelbert. And when Silver's name gets dropped in the same breath at the peak of year-long speculation about Engelbert's future, it doesn't feel like something Clark stumbled into by chance.
She's been terrible. One of her number one problems is not publicly heading trouble off at the pass. And I'm talking about having a press conference, getting in front of people, and taking the bullets. She refuses to do it. Remember, she's literally at the same golf tournament where Dan Patrick is hosting his show, and she backed out. She ghosted him on an interview that went mega viral after she did it because Dan Patrick drowned her, and then so did everybody else. She refused to take responsibility.
When asked directly whether Engelbert stays beyond this year, Silver has stayed pretty tight-lipped. When reporters pressed him directly in March, right after the new CBA was approved, on whether she'd remain in the role, he simply said there hadn't been any recent conversations about her future plans. That's as close as a sitting commissioner can get to saying we'll see without actually saying it. This month at NBA Summer League, he was asked again about her performance, and gave a version of the same guarded answer, saying he's extremely happy with where the WNBA is, but clearly not endorsing her directly or committing to her staying. But since Silver was the one who originally appointed Engelbert when she was hired, and the WNBA board is fundamentally accountable to the NBA, players like Clark clearly see him as someone who truly gets what this league needs moving forward. If he's ultimately choosing her replacement, or at least heavily influencing the decision behind the scenes, as commissioners of this stature usually do, his fingerprints are already all over the succession conversation, whether or not league leadership wants to admit that publicly. Fans have picked up on all of this quickly, honestly quicker than the league office has managed to respond to any of it. Since the All-Star Weekend story broke, social media has been flooded with clips pairing Clark's comments about Silver directly against footage of Engelbert getting booed at Barclays last year, basically building the succession narrative themselves before the league has said a single official word about any of it. ESPN reported that Engelbert stayed deliberately vague when asked about her own job status this weekend, repeating platitudes about being blessed to lead the league through hyper-growth instead of giving everyone in that room a straight answer. And Clark, without raising her voice once, without throwing a single direct insult at anyone, has made it very clear who she trusts and who she's simply putting up with for now until the business side figures itself out. Whether Silver ends up with any formal role in selecting the next commissioner remains to be seen, and the league hasn't announced anything close to a timeline. But if last month proved anything at all, it's that Cathy Engelbert's grip on this position is slipping fast, and Caitlin Clark isn't exactly rushing over to hold the door open for her on the way out.